Jonestown, Waco, Heaven's Gate. These are the sorts of cult groups and tragic events that usually come to mind when people hear the term cult. But the danger from cults and con men and high control groups isn't always related to mass suicide or death by shootout with police. Sometimes high control groups use undue influence in a way that seems benign because the threat isn't always mortal or immediate. Victims don't always lose their lives through death, but more often they simply no longer have a life of their own, having given over much of their free will to the group or the group leader. On my website and Medium blog, I've discussed a lot about how individuals and groups use B.I.T.E control, behavior, information, thought, and emotional control to recruit their new members. To avoid cognitive dissonance, a person needs those four things to be in agreement. If one of those four is out of alignment with the others persistently over a period of time, the individual is likely to change the others one or more at a time until their B.I.T.E is back in alignment once again. Now, how does this relate to the less dramatic groups who use tools of undue influence like B.I.T.E control? While they do use these methods for recruitment, a great deal of what they use these methods for is retention, keeping the members they already have. Once a high control group has been around for a long time, perhaps several decades or even more, it tends to become perceived as more mainstream than perhaps it really is. And rather than grow in numbers primarily through recruitment, you now have people who have been born and raised under this sort of influence. In the following interview clips, you're going to see how B.I.T.E is used as a tool to retain members. These are pieces of a much longer interview with Angie Radaj, and she is from Wisconsin. And you'll meet her in this interview, and you can see the full interview later on if you're interested. I will post a link in the credits. But now let's listen to Angie and a little bit about her experience with B.I.T.E.
My parents converted when I was about a year old. They were studying pretty much right after I was born, so I was pretty much born in and raised in the religion.
Okay. All right. That's sort of similar to me. I was a little bit older. I think I was maybe between 3 and 5 or something like that. So yeah, I was raised in as well. And how old were you when you were baptized?
11.
Wow. Okay, so you were very young. Were you a zealous young witness girl, or did you feel some sort of pressure from your family maybe, or from other kids in the congregation? How did that work? Why 11 did you feel you were ready?
It was really all I knew. All of my friends were all in the congregation. I wasn't allowed to associate outside of the congregation. I don't know that I was necessarily zealous at first, but it just was presented to me as this is all there is. And I had other friends in the congregation who started getting baptized, and, you know, everybody was so proud of them and made such a big deal out of it. So it was something I decided, I want to do that too. So I didn't know what was involved at all. I just remember going to my parents saying, I want to get baptized. And they were like, okay, great. And took me to the elders, and they started asking me questions that I had no idea how to answer. So I had to study and all the questions that they have you go through. And I'm book smart. I was able to read it all and give them the answers they wanted and got baptized.
Wow. 11 years old.
Notice, this was all that I knew. No friends outside the congregation. The other kids' parents were so proud of them. In this particular religion, baptism is a lifelong commitment, which if broken results in shunning and the loss of everyone you know and love. Now, getting kids to commit in this way is designed to trap them, because the thought of leaving the faith is frightening, and it entails so much potential grief and loss. And that's just one example of an entire B.I.T.E-controlled lifestyle where behavior and emotional influence are used. Information and thought control are powerful too. Let's listen some more, get back to Angie, and find out some more about her upbringing in a B.I.T.E-controlled environment.
So you were baptized at 11, which means by the time you're in high school and getting ready to graduate high school, you've been baptized a pretty good number of years. Were you considering college? Did the people at school try to gear you towards going to college? And what did you end up doing? Did you end up pioneering or marrying elder in the congregation? Or, how did things go as you got older as a witness?
Well, my parents actually pulled me out of school and homeschooled me. I only went through school until my freshman year. And then it was decided that it would be better for keeping away from bad association and not having the temptations to associate and with others or go to dances, that I would just come home, and I homeschooled and auxiliary pioneered. Through that process, I ended up graduating a year early because I always was a very good student, but it was very clear that college was not an option for me.
Right.
The attitude has changed recently, but back when I was 16, 17, 18, you were pretty much viewed as leaving the religion if you went to college. It was almost as bad as disassociating yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty extreme, especially if you do have to go away to college. I think even now that they're a little more lax on college, it's really on if you live with your parents and you go to the college down the street and you still
Correct.
get your service time and you go to meetings and stuff.
Right.
They still frown heavily on kids going out and living on their own with other kids.
Exactly. And
really
my daughter is away at college right now, and it was looked down upon for her also to do that. It was more of if you planned on pioneering, you could go to a technical school, but anything above 2 years was frowned upon. So for her to be away at a 4-year college is a big step for the family.
Allowing a child to go off to college allows them to learn how to think independently of the group. Independent thought can't be allowed if groups like this are going to retain their members. Spend your time going to meetings of the organization, learning the things they want you to learn, and then you'll be sheltered and a safe and secure member of the group. You were pretty much viewed as leaving the religion if you went to college, Angie said. So controlling that information you have access to in this way shapes your thoughts, and again, it influences you emotionally as well. Leaving the religion, remember, means loss of everything and everyone you've ever known. And so there's this fear of higher education that's instilled in people raised in this. So the next clip now drives that home a bit more, how guilt and fear are used as emotional influence tools to help retain and even bring back members who have left the group.
Well, the first time I left, when I turned 18, I still believed it was the truth, but I was struggling with living it. I wasn't allowed to date. I wasn't allowed to do anything unchaperoned. I pretty much worked, pioneered, took care of my younger sisters, and went to meetings, and that was my life. And I met the man that I eventually married at work, and it turned into a big scandal.
Worldly guy.
So yes, and I ended up getting kicked out at 18, and I moved in with my then boyfriend, and we ended up moving across country to New Mexico. And I was disfellowshipped, and I didn't talk to or see my family for 2 years.
Wow. And so you're basically just you and your boyfriend and eventual husband, and no contact with your family back home.
Correct. My mother, even when she kicked me out and I moved in with him, and after I was officially disfellowshipped, left my baby book on my steps outside my house.
Wow. So completely cut off, as if you were never her child.
Exactly.
The guilt, the fear, the belief that the group was the truth and the only source of salvation, combined with the fact that it was all that she knew. Other sources of information weren't even available to her through college education or from friends. That made Angie return to the religion after just a couple of years being out. Now, luckily for her, around 15 years later, she learned more about thinking for herself and was able to break free from the undue influence and this high control group. Now, that whole story is a story for another time if you'd like to listen to her entire interview. Now, this video, it just touched on the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the full range of undue influence groups and what they do use on their members and their recruits. Steve Hassan's B.I.T.E model explains how it works in a simple and practical way. Knowledge is power. If you're interested in protecting yourself and your loved ones from undue influence, please see the links in the credits to learn more and learn about these high control methods of B.I.T.E. Enjoy the bonus clip during the credits, follow the links, and keep your mind free. Thanks for watching.
The organization is arranged in a hierarchy. At the very bottom is women and children of the congregation. Women have no authority. They cannot teach men. They cannot even speak at a podium in front of men, as I am doing right now. They are not to question any decision made by a man. That is slander. The next level is a ministerial servant. These men have small responsibilities within the congregation. They are responsible for some of the teaching also. The men who carry the most responsibility in the congregation is the body of elders. They are responsible for everything and everyone in the congregation. The next level is the traveling overseers. These men travel all over and make sure the elders in the congregations are completing all of their duties. And the final level is the governing body. These men claim to be our channel of communication with God. They are the ones who create all the rules within the religion. All the members of the governing body are going to heaven. All members of the church are required to partake in field service. This is when you go door to door to tell the world about the religion. This is the only time it is deemed appropriate to socialize with people outside of the religion. People outside of the religion are called worldly. They are taught that these people do not yet know the truth or decide to ignore God's message. Because of this, they can be used by the devil, Satan, to tempt the witnesses and pull them away from the truth. This is including avoiding unnecessary contact with the court of law, teachers, and people at school. So growing up, I was taught that everyone I knew outside of the religion, including my father, was going to be killed in Armageddon. And I was going to live on paradise earth forever without my father. This was further incentive for me to avoid friendship with children at school. When a member of the church commits a serious sin and is not repentant, they are disfellowshipped. When a person is disfellowshipped, no one who is a member of the church can speak to them, not even a hello. A person can be disfellowshipped for a large range of unforgivable sins. One of them is slander. This is when you speak badly of the religion and its members. I could be disfellowshipped for giving this very speech. They are taught that someone who speaks badly about the religion and its members are demon-possessed and are dangerous to associate with. Within this religion, love is conditional. And as a result, we have lost all of our friends and family within the organization. We were both told this was the one true religion, as did Donna, Jane, and Trisha. The majority of people in the religion believe it is the only way to save their lives in Armageddon and do not know the secrets that are being covered up. Learning all the cruelty and corruption that was hidden in this religion flipped our worlds upside down. Everything we devoted our lives to was nothing. We do not want any of you to experience the stress and confusion of losing everything. Unconditional love is what gave Donna, Jane, Trisha, and I the courage to share our stories. It is vital that you think for yourself so you are never blindly devoting your lives to a dangerous and awful cause.